Okay, we're live here in the War Room. It's Tuesday, 3 August, year of our Lord, 2021. It's Tuesday, over 72 million downloads on the podcast. We're live everywhere. We're in Mandarin. We're in Japanese. We're also live in India, Australia, Brazil, Europe, all of it, okay, with our global audience, of course, massively here with the MAGA movement and America First, the Trump movement. We have our esteemed colleague Boris Epshteyn is in studio today, serendipitous. We also have, we're going to go immediately to Congressman Elise Stefanik from New York. But first, we got breaking news on this whole Cuomo scandal.
Yes, breaking news. First of all, I don't have any lampshades behind me, so that's breaking news number one. Second of all, breaking news, Joe Biden right now said that he is calling on Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York to resign. So Joe Biden, whoever controls Joe Biden, finally got to him and said, hey, Elise Stefanik's been coming in hot on this. She's been calling for Cuomo to be arrested. We cannot stay silent. So the powers who control Joe Biden are now calling on him to resign, again, following the lead of the one and only Congresswoman Elise Stefanik.
Okay, Congresswoman Stefanik is from some of the greatest events, places, her district, the greatest events in the American Revolution, Saratoga, all up there, up in the upper Hudson Valley. Congressman Stefanik, you're from New York. You called for Cuomo today to be arrested. Talk to us about what you're thinking back of that, and what do you think about Joe Biden saying he should resign?
Well, Andrew Cuomo is a criminal sexual predator. We have known that for months at this point. I was the first federal elected official to call for an independent investigation of these accusations of sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual abuse. And we now know, based upon the comprehensive reports done by the New York State Attorney General, that it is far worse, far more heinous than we even knew based upon media reporting. He needs to be arrested, but in the meantime, because he's going to refuse to resign, the state legislature in Albany needs to immediately move to impeachment proceedings. He is unfit to be governor. It is a shame for New Yorkers, and most importantly, it is shameful how he attempted to smear the victims in his just outrageous statement that was filmed and he put out at 1 p.m. today. When it comes to Joe Biden calling for his resignation, that's not enough. Joe Biden months ago said that if the accusations turn out to be true and credible, which they are based upon the Attorney General's reports, then Governor Cuomo must be prosecuted. So the statement to calling on his resignation is not good enough. We need to make sure that he is prosecuted. He has committed multiple federal crimes and state crimes that he actually signed into law.
Congressman Stefanik, he put out his defense today. He put out a video and still photos when he talked, and it was a still photo montage of him hugging people. Everybody from Bill Clinton to other males to grandmothers to other younger women. As his defense, and his thing was, hey, I do this all the time. But what do you cite that says he's a criminal sexual predator?
Well, the women's accusations were not hugs. This is about sexual touching. This is rubbing a New York State trooper's back from her bottom up her spine. This is touching women's chest. These are textbook cases of sexual assault. In addition, it is against the law in New York State to retaliate against employees who come forward who have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace. Time and time and time again, there was retaliation professionally against these state employees who were either moved to different offices or they refused to take up the case. In some cases of one individual, they publicly released her private personnel file to smear her in the press. That has an impact on someone's professional reputation. It is against the law in New York State. He is a criminal sexual predator. And what do criminal sexual predators do, Steve? They blame their victims, which is what Governor Cuomo did in his just bogus, outrageous filmed statement today.
Congressman Stefanik, you said, hey, some of these are federal laws. I just want to ask, the audience wants to know a question. Who do you want to arrest him? You want Letitia James, the Attorney General? Is it a federal officer? Should it be a U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York? Should it be the FBI? Who are you calling on to arrest Governor Cuomo?
Well, he's committed both federal and state crimes, so he can be arrested by state law enforcement officials or by federal law enforcement officials. And let's remember, Steve, this is one of many ongoing investigations. He is under investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office as well as the FBI. Biden's Department of Justice may have dropped the nursing home investigation, which is a scandal unto itself, the fact that the Biden administration would play politics But also we know that the governor is under investigation from the Albany County District Attorney. And when that criminal behavior is found, which they're going to make sure they have access to all the records, I believe that Governor Cuomo will face justice, and he should face justice. I think the bigger issue, Steve, is the American people are so frustrated with the justice system in this country and this growing sense that if you're a powerful elected Democrat who's part of the establishment, that somehow you can live by a separate set of rules and laws than the everyday American person, the everyday New Yorker. If these crimes were committed by anybody else in New York, they would face prosecution. So there is absolutely no excuse, or there should be no more cover-up by the media or his fellow Democrats who are trying to protect and distract from Governor Cuomo.
Congressman, here's a question. So we went through something similar, but not obviously as horrible, but really disgusting in its own way with Ralph Northam in Virginia, when everybody came out and called on Northam to resign, all the Democrats, the whole swamp, and then he stuck it out, right? He stuck it out, he waited in there, and then he's still the governor of Virginia as we speak. Do you think that is Cuomo's strategy? And if so, do you think there's any chance that it works?
I unfortunately do think that's Cuomo's strategy. They are digging in. We saw that by his statement today. Again, I talk about the double standard in the media. You never hear the media outside of the conservative media organizations really holding Governor Northam accountable for his unbelievable actions. And if that were a Republican governor, they would have been forced out within 24 hours. The same applies here. Imagine if a Governor DeSantis had committed these multiple crimes, multiple investigations, the media would be spun up. In this case, you have CNN, you have one of the main anchors from CNN helping craft the response for his brother, Governor Cuomo, who is a criminal sexual predator. So that's my fear, Boris, but that's why it's so important for New Yorkers and the American people to put pressure on Democrats in the state legislature to move forward with impeachment proceedings. This governor is not going to go quietly. He needs to be removed from office. I know that the Democrats in the Assembly had a call at 2 p.m. today. They need to go into emergency session immediately to impeach this criminal governor.
Okay, so you're calling on state officials, Letitia James, to arrest him. You're calling on federal officials to arrest him. You're calling on the Assembly, controlled by Democrats, to actually meet to begin impeachment proceedings to get him out of office. The question is, if you read the report, this has gone on for a long time.
Right.
I mean, the Democratic establishment there, and particularly in the Me Too era, right? You got Harvey Weinstein out in L.A. about to be prosecuted again. You've got all these executives in New York City that have been bounced out, right? You had nothing but intense media coverage. This guy went through, years and years and years of doing this, where the state police covered up for it, his operations. I know you know some of the people there. They're very powerful. Some of the most powerful women in the nation are on his staff. Right. You've got the media, right? The Me Too movement was really centered around not just Hollywood, but what happened in New York in the corporate environment, and many of the in upper echelons of the media. How did we get to this place? How did you get to this place that it really took Letitia James and the Attorney General to kind of force their way in here and put this out, and the guy's still going to try to dig in, Congressman.
And let's be honest real quick, Letitia James isn't doing this because she's the key law enforcement, the head law enforcement officer of New York. She's doing this because she wants to be governor. So let's make no mistake.
And beyond. Right. Congressman Stefanik, your thoughts?
Well, I actually think the politics within the Democratic Party have very little to do with this. I think this is because of the brave women who have come forward. I mean, they're going against the most powerful elected official in New York State. And if you remember, a year ago, Cuomo was considered probably the most prominent Democrat nationally when he got just the raving reviews and just the sparkling coverage nationally for what we now know was his horrific leadership during COVID. He was committing some of these sexual crimes during that time period. But I really credit the number of women who have come forward because they've been smeared. They've been smeared by Governor Cuomo's staff, and the media has been partially complicit. The fact that they've published private personnel reports, that is shameful. The other thing, Steve, is this has been all in plain sight for decades in Albany. Albany is a cesspool of corruption. The sexual harassment and sexual abuse lawmakers in Albany, unfortunately, is nothing new. It is long past time to clean house, and they need to start at the top with a criminal sexual predator. But the media, it's interesting today, the New York media took this as an opportunity not to hold Governor Cuomo accountable, although they say that's what they want to do, but to attack President Trump and Republicans. That is outrageous and should outrage every single American. It's a strategy to try to distract and protect Governor Cuomo.
Go ahead, Boris.
Congressman, very important points there, and the kind of leadership that you are providing on this is absolutely what we need in this country. Here's a question. What should the viewership of this show, the MAGA Brain Trust, the Republicans who are your colleagues up on the Hill, what needs to be done by the MAGA movement, the GOP, including all the way up to President Trump? Where should everybody come in on this? Because this is a national issue. It is not a New York issue. It is a national issue.
This is a national issue. This is the worst governor in America. Again, he was hailed as a leader in the Democratic Party, and now we have seen just this horrific fall from grace. We want justice. We want justice for the victims, and we want justice for the New Yorkers who have had to live through these multiple scandals. And let's not forget, Boris, over 15,000 seniors who have lost their lives. We need to still make sure he's prosecuted for that crime and that criminal cover-up, which Biden's Department of Justice has chosen not to prosecute, which I believe is illegal. So the viewers of your show, members of the posse, need to continue to speaking out. And most importantly, we need to make our voices heard at the ballot box next November. Make sure that there is not a Democrat governor in New York State, but fire the Democrats across the board in this country so that we can retake the House, retake the Senate, and save our country.
What, when you moved on Liz Cheney, next thing you know, she's not around. So that's one of the most powerful political families in the country. What action are you, our audience wants to know, because you're action-oriented, what actions are Congressman Stefanik going to take starting tonight about this Cuomo situation?
Well, I've led the charge when it comes to holding Governor Cuomo accountable. As I said, Steve, I was the first federal elected official to call for the independent investigation. I was smeared by the press for doing so. I was also the first federal elected official to call for his resignation in Congress, and I was smeared for doing so. I'm glad that others are stepping up to the plate now. Frankly, on both sides of the aisle, they have been late to the game, but we welcome their voices. The next step is making sure that our state elected officials impeach immediately, but also make sure that there's equal justice under the law. So I'm going to keep fighting, speaking out, and making sure that New York is out.
Congressman, I know you're one of the leaders in the House, and we're going to take the House back. You're one of the leadership. But if Cuomo tries to dig in and doesn't go away, would you take him on and run against him for governor?
Well, we have numerous great candidates for governor in New York State. I think we have a real opportunity to win the governor's race statewide. When it comes to my job, I'm focused as the conference chair. That's what my job is. I committed to serving as the conference chair for the House Republicans through this cycle so that we can win back the House, be a unified voice, and fire Nancy Pelosi once and for all. That's what I'm committed to doing, as well as committed to serving my constituents in New York's 21st District, who I will tell you, the least popular elected official, it's a toss-up between Andrew Cuomo and Nancy Pelosi in my district.
Congressman, we got to bounce. What is your social media handles? How do people find out more about you and follow you during the day?
You can follow me at Elise Stefanik on Getter, Parler, Twitter, or Facebook.
Congressman Stefanik, thank you very much. Honored to have you in the show today.
Thank you, and thanks for all the support.
What a star!
When Stefanik comes after you, hey, Cuomo better. She's coming after him.
He's about to get Cheneyed.
Yeah, he's about to get you right. He's. I tell you, this is very interesting. You're right. You're 100% right. He's going to dig in.
Dig in.
This is the Cuomos. They're going to the mattresses.